Hello, guys. We are back. We are back to be talking about cricket, and it is Border Gavaskar Trophy time. As the second test is here, it starts from tomorrow, which is going to be played in Delhi. As you all know, the first test, India took a formidable lead in the series 1-0, and that victory also means it's a formidable lead. It was an innings and 132 runs win. Now, for Australia, they have their task pretty much cut out. If they have to come back into the Border Gavaskar Trophy, they will have to win this test match. That's the only possible way in which Australia can make a comeback into the series. If they let go of this test match, the trophy will be retained by India, because if the series goes to be draw, the trophy is retained by the team who has won previously as well. That is how it stands. Now for India, of course, they will be looking to take that lead and make sure they completely dominate Australia. They've already sniffed an opportunity here, so India would want to ideally go on to take that 2-0 lead and have a good time going to Indore as well, where the game has been shifted now from Dharamshala. Let's talk about it. Welcome, gentlemen, on the show. Let's start with how India are going to look like, right? Of course, from the last test match, we are not expecting a lot of changes, but definitely one change which we can expect at this point of stage is Shreyas Iyer coming back. Sandeep, how big a boost it is going to be for someone like a Shreyas Iyer to walk straight into this team, and how big a boost is going to be for Team India, because he's been your best player under pressure circumstances over the last 1.5 years at least.
Yeah, I think it was a no-brainer. If Shreyas Iyer was fit, he was going to be in the playing 11 for sure. But his injury gave Surya Kumar Yadav an opportunity to make his debut. Unfortunately for him, he just got that one innings where he couldn't really capitalize on a start that he was getting. 8 of 20 balls is not something that you would uh, carry on to the next game. So I think if Shreyas Iyer is fit, if he's completely fit, he's definitely going to come in place of Surya Kumar Yadav, and I think it is going to be a great boost for Team India because. As we said, we have been very vocal about the fact that over the last 2 years, India have actually struggled with their opening pair and the number three, number four position. It was the middle order who was doing the talking with the bat. Shreyas Iyer, Rishabh Pant, and Ravindra Jadeja have been really consistent in that lower middle order, and boosted by Ashwin or an Akshar Patel at number 8, number 9. It is going to be a very deep batting lineup, and with the bowling lineup that India has, they'll definitely be very confident, especially after that crushing defeat in the first test. They are going to be very optimistic about their chances, especially because it is in Delhi, and if you have your formidable player who was one of the leading run scorers in the last calendar year all across the world, I think it is going to be a huge boost.
Yeah, that is one factor for sure. But now let's talk about that one debate again, right? Now we already have a question on that. Jen, do you reckon there is any bit of chance for Shubman Gill, and how do you reckon India will be treating this opportunity? Because we did discuss about how KL Rahul deserves another run, and how Indian team management, now that Chetan Sharma has also been very clear. We'll talk about that. We'll have an exclusive segment on that man. But before that, we will talk about how Shubman Gill deserves an opportunity in this team, because we've often spoken about how he is your next generational talent, right? And in Test cricket, especially alongside One Day cricket, is his best format. Now you have a KL Rahul who's been underperforming in that position, who's got an average of just 34 and about, and he's not really looking any bit of confidence as well. He's looking extremely under a lot of shell, and he looks overburdened as well. Maybe because of White's captaincy, I don't know what exactly it is, but he's got all the backing in the world which any player can ever get.
I really don't know why his captaincy is the biggest problem here. Well, because you look into that Indian team, you saw the test match as well. Virat Kohli is involved, Ashwin is involved, Jadeja is involved. Rohit Sharma is obviously having a group of individuals who are leading this team. I wouldn't say KL Rahul is out of it, but it's not like he's the one sharing the burden. The biggest issue is I really feel it's that mental block. He's not getting going, right? Even in that innings, he saw him score what 20 odd runs. He played quite a lot of balls. He played some 75, 76 balls. To be fair, it was good that he played that many deliveries, because again it put that pressure on Australia going into the next day, because then Ashwin had to only play a total of 5 deliveries to survive to go into the next day. But we need KL Rahul to do a lot more. And as I said before this test as well, if KL Rahul if India is in a comfortable position, as long as India is in a comfortable position, KL Rahul will be able to retain or KL Rahul's rope will extend. But if India, let's say, does go on to lose this match, then India might especially if India lose the match because of their batting, India might be a little, more reluctant to keep KL Rahul in the third test. But having said that, Delhi is going to be a little bit more easier to bat, you would say, than Nagpur, because even though the ball turns here, the ball turns a little slower than it does in Nagpur. So the batsmen
Hmm.
are going to have a lot more time to adjust to the turn and play their shots. So I think KL Rahul might find it easier. But having said that, it is his mental block, and he really needs to get rid of it. But he will get one more test at least.
Yeah, you mentioned that. Well, let's talk about the pitch, right? Because there's been a lot of hue and cry about this pitch as well. Because the footage of the pitch was out a couple of days before the test match, and of course, there had to be a lot of hue and cry. And something we've seen often with the Arun Jaitley Stadium, as it is named now, that in the Firozshah Kotla, or previously, or even the Arun Jaitley Stadium, one thing is very consistent over a period of time. It is the invariable bounce which takes place in these grounds. Once it goes to day three, if at all it does, or if it goes to day four, day five, one thing is pretty sure is that it is going to have a lot of invariable bounce, especially for pacers. The ball is not going to pick up. It's going to keep extremely low. And even with ballers who are going to be extremely accurate, like so Jadeja, Akshar Patel there, how tough is it going to be for batters to counter this on both the sides? Because even Indian batters are not masters at doing invariable bounce, are not masters countering invariable bounce. We've seen Indian batters struggle a lot. And this is where maybe even Australian pace attack can come in more handy, because if there's going to be any sort of invariable bounce of the surface, bowlers who are going to be accurate, like maybe Josh Hazlewood if he's fit, or Patrick Cummins for that reason, is going to be even more in the game than what they were in the last game.
Yeah, definitely. I think it is going to be a great opportunity for the Australian seamers to bounce back after the
Yeah.
horrific game that they had. Even though Pat Cummins picked up 2 wickets, I think his captaincy calls along with his bowling was not up to the mark. And then he's the number one test bowler in the world right now, even after that highly disappointing performance in the first test. So he's a world class bowler. He'll definitely come bounce back, and with favorable conditions, yeah, definitely invariable bounce is going to be a factor. But once again, I really don't understand the reason for the cry ahead of the start of the game, because we saw in the first test it was okay. There was some uneven bounces, the ball was turning, but it was not an impossible pitch to bat on. Even on the after the first day, we had an analysis where it showed that over the last 1.5 years, on the first day the ball spun the lowest. The degree of turn was the lowest in the last test. So I think all the unnecessary talk about pitches ahead of the game is unnecessary. To be honest, yeah, you should have a game plan on how to tackle this invariable bounce. It might be one of those days where you are playing brilliantly and suddenly you have a ball that stays low and then you get dismissed. Yeah, that can be frustrating at times, but more often than not, it is going to hold on for day three, day four. And it was interesting that you said if the game goes on till the third or fourth day. I think the game will definitely go on till the third day, but Australia will have to bat really well to keep it going till the fourth day, because as you said, because I mean, if it would have been any other pitch in India, I would have still been uh, yeah, I mean, the talk is there, but the pitches are fine at the end of the day. But it's Firozshah Kotla or Arun Jaitley Stadium, and we have had some instances where the pitch has not been really suitable for batting. So
But
yeah,
I just want to bring you Arun Jaitley Stadium's record, right? The last two test matches played in this very ground. 2017, India played Sri Lanka. Virat Kohli scored 243. The match ended on a draw. 2015, India played South Africa here. Only match in which South Africa really fought. If you guys remember, AB de Villiers played that 43 runs of 212 balls. Ultimately, it was Umesh Yadav who came and cleaned up towards the end. It went on to the fifth day, last hour of the game for India to get that result over there as well. So it has been one of the better surfaces in India when it comes to batting, because it turns out to be extremely flat because of the slowness of the surface. And even if the ball turns, it turns very mildly, where it does not create a lot of difference at all. So if Sri Lanka had to bat out an entire day, but I remember Angelo Matthews played a brilliant knock there. And for South Africa, it was Hashim Amla and AB de Villiers who went on a blockathon to almost get that draw. But of course, you had to get some brilliance from Umesh Shah's reverse swing over there as well. India tried
but
their best in
I
2017,
think
but it did not
you are
happen.
talking about the last two games, that last two test matches that took place in in New Delhi. But over the years, I mean, it has been one of the more inconsistent pitches going forward. I mean, you never know what to really expect from
But
the pitch. You might go in,
what does
yeah.
happen, Sanjivani Evil, is the fact that the pitch is obviously unpredictable, just like any Indian pitch, and in fourth and fifth day. But in comparison to some of the other grounds, let's say for Mumbai instance, Mumbai where you have the red soil, and Nagpur where you have the red soil. In Delhi, the turn is a little slower, right? Ball does whatever it does of the pitch, it's a lot slower. Batsmen have the time. So, as Abel mentioned, it's not impossible to bat there if you give yourself some time. Get used to the
But
pitch, the bounce of the pitch.
I think players like Ravindra Jadeja, Akshar Patel, if Ashton Agar gets a game, I think these are the spinners who are going to be more effective in Delhi as compared
Absolutely,
to
yeah.
more of the orthodox spinners. I mean, the players who keep it tight, wicket to wicket,
Yeah,
and
do you
keep
reckon
maintain a
there's any
consistent
chance
level.
for Kuldeep at all? Because a ball like Kuldeep, he will be a differential bowler, but on surfaces like this, a bowler with a little bit of extra pace is going to be far more threatening
Yeah.
from the surface in comparison with Kuldeep, who's going to be much more loopier. And even if you look in the test match with India won 2013 against Australia in Delhi, it was Ravindra Jadeja who was the man of the match who picked up 5 wickets on that surface.
Yeah, definitely.
I
I
think he
don't
had
see
that
Kuldeep Yadav
infamous,
playing.
yeah. I think he had that infamous
But
press conference as well. It was the same one, if I'm not wrong, where he said batsmen rough dekh ke unki, whatever he wanted to say. But yeah, I mean, I think after the last match, because I think India really won the match where the partnership between Akshar Patel and Ravindra Jadeja. So I think now the combination is settled at least. Unfortunately for Kuldeep Yadav, I really wanted him to play. I still feel if he had played, Australia wouldn't have scored 177 in the first innings. It would have been probably even 50 runs lower, because Kuldeep can do that even on flat pitches. But now that you're going to Delhi, because again the turn on the pitch is going to be much slower. Also, given the fact that India will need an extended batting lineup, it just helps. The fact that your
and also the
number
fact
9
that
batsman
Akshar
is
Patel
Akshar
came
Patel.
in and scored 80 odd
Yeah,
runs in the first
precisely.
test. Yeah.
Precisely. So that's where the game changed, right? Because even then, when Jadeja and Akshar had just begun their partnership, you felt Australia were in the game because India were leading somewhere 140 odd, 140, 150 odd. So you felt if Australia could wrap up India very quickly, and which they would have if Kuldeep Yadav had come on to bat instead of Akshar Patel, you would have felt Australia had a chance. But then the way that Jadeja and Akshar took the game away from Australia, Akshar's 84 really changed the game. Rather, really buried Australia under that pile of runs. So I really feel that's where India is settled in terms of their in terms of balance at least. And Kuldeep might now have to really wait for someone to get injured, or maybe for Ashwin to retire.
Yeah, absolutely. But
No, but I
I
think
also think that
he'll
Kuldeep can be
definitely
used
get a
on
game
certain
if
surfaces.
India goes on to win the second test. I think in indoor probably you can even try Kuldeep Yadav. I mean, he's not a bad option. He's a very good replacement for an Akshar Patel, a number 9. Kuldeep Yadav is a more than capable batsman to bat at number 9 for
Yeah,
Team India.
yeah,
He has done it for his. He has done it in the domestic circuit. He
yeah.
can equally
But you
prove
know
his
what?
talent.
What is the where it happens? Kuldeep's possible opportunity in the team was to replace Akshar Patel, but that knock which Akshar Patel played on that surface in Nagpur has given India more of that opportunity to think, yes, Akshar Patel is a right choice, and we should persist with Akshar Patel because his batting has come of age over the last 1 year, and you can't debate on that. And even when you talk about his bowling, Akshar Patel can make things happen when nothing is happening on the ground. There can be situations in a test match where you feel like the opposition team is having a very good partnership. India haven't been able to counter that yet. In the last match, it was all India throughout the course of the game. But if at all it happens in Delhi, especially in a surface like Delhi, where you might have situations where two Australian batters put on a 100-run partnership or a 150-run partnership, where shoulders can drop. That's where a bowler like Akshar Patel can be extremely persistent. One odd ball, keeping straight, turning quickly, can create an opportunity. And that is where you need a ball like Akshar Patel who's gonna grind it out, go in and ball time and time again in the same spot and keep the batters on check. So that's where I believe Indian management have taken a good call in persisting with Akshar Patel, and he's given them the rewards as well. It's not like he's been failing continuously, and Kuldeep is the right man to replace him. Kuldeep, of course, he's a fantastic cricketer, and I thought he had one opportunity to come into the 11. If India were playing in Dharamshala, because I thought Dharamshala, you needed a bowler like Kuldeep who could do a lot more out of the surface because
Yeah.
surface will tend to be more flatter. And he could have come in instead of Akshar Patel there. But now that the game is out of Dharamshala, I really don't see Kuldeep getting an opportunity in this series. But if India are having an overseas tour to England or to South Africa later on this year, I see Kuldeep getting a chance there. That is where I really like to see
I
Kuldeep
mean,
being a primary
even there,
overseas
Abel, you
bowler.
would say that because India will only play with one spinner, it's going to be either Jadeja or Ashwin at max.
I'd like
Because
to, if India had to play two spinners, I would have Jadeja and
yeah,
Kuldeep
fair
in the deck.
enough, fair enough, fair enough.
And also, I think it's a shame to waste a form. Kuldeep Yadav has been in the form of his life.
I mean,
We
it's
like you
unfortunate,
just name.
really.
It's very
But
unfortunate.
Sandeep Mane, let's look at the flip side of things, right? What has worked well for Kuldeep? Now he's your primary white ball spinner. He has taken that mantle over from Chahal. He's been your preferred
Yeah.
option in one day and T20 at this point of stage. But in red ball, of course, because of the competition, because of the seniority, because of the players Jadeja and Ashwin have been over the years, you certainly
And
have
because
to.
of
There's
how
no complaints there.
Akshar Patel has really improved his credibility with the bat, I think that has been one of the more decisive factors in leaving out Kuldeep Yadav. India can now
Hmm.
think that they have batting till number 9. Akshar Patel, even if he does not get a wicket throughout, I mean, if he does not get a wicket in the next game itself, India will still know that they have a proper batsman at number 9. And I think his role is going to be more with the bat, less with the ball, because the way Jadeja and Ashwin sometimes the way they bowled in the first test, they were looking, I mean, unplayable. So if they continue to maintain that rhythm, I think Akshar Patel will hardly be tried. I think he picked up just the one wicket in the last game. He was given 15, 16 overs throughout the match. So no, he was not really tested with the ball, but the innings that he
Yeah.
played with the bat, I think at that moment, like Jerin mentioned, the game was still not out of Australia's hands. They only had a lead of around 30-40 when Jadeja and Akshar Patel came together. But the way they consolidated the lead and took the game out of Australia's hand was really credible. And it was not that he was slogging, because
I
you
mean,
had a Mohammad Shami
what
innings.
is interesting, Sandeepani, is that Akshar Patel is the second highest run getter already in this series. Rohit Sharma at 120 and then Akshar Patel 84. So number 9 in the Indian team is the second highest run getter in the series. That's just scary for any team visiting India.
But I think
Yeah.
Australia were dubious with the bat. I mean, it's
Yeah.
one thing to blame the pitch. It's the other thing to play wrong sort of cricket. They were just not prepared for Ashwin and Jadeja. And whatever you may blame it on the pitch, you may blame it on coach, you may go on and blame it on Chetan Sharma. But Australia were just not good enough. They batted dubiously in the
Yeah.
first test. They'll have to come back really strong tomorrow.
Yeah, that's true, and that's what I personally feel. A team like Australia really will come back into this tournament, which is the Border Gavaskar Trophy. And let's talk about the Australian team, right? Let's talk about the other camp. And before that, I think we should talk about this because we already have a question. Is this time for Virat Kohli? That's the question, right? Yeah, I mean, this is a question we've been downplaying for the longest period of time.
Yeah,
Uh,
yeah.
do you reckon this is actually time for Virat Kohli's 75th because it's its home ground and he's got a
It's
fantastic
happening
record
in Delhi.
in the court?
Yes, he just put up a story. I was speaking with you about it, where he said nostalgic feeling going to the ground driving. So it'll be interesting. I mean, it might be really a relief for Virat that he's driving to the ground after so long, rather than being in the bus hounded by fans and everywhere. He probably got to go home as well. Might be very
Yeah.
refreshed. It'll be great. It'll be a story, that will be coming forth for all the fans to see Virat Kohli's 75th century in Test cricket after a 75th century and a century in
And
Test cricket after so
just to
long.
add to that, the Australian dressing room stand is called the Virat Kohli Pavilion. So it's even more funny, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think
No,
that
but
just
I
shows
think
how Virat
also
Kohli's pocketed
also the
them.
fact yeah, also the fact that Virat Kohli has been stuck at 27 for the longest period of time, over 3 years now, and you have had players like Joe Root, Steven Smith coming in, going past Virat Kohli in terms of centuries in Test matches. Even Kane Williamson, he has been in terrific form in Test cricket. So you have had the out of the Fab Four, you have had the other three players scoring centuries in Test cricket, but Virat Kohli, he came back with a century in T20Is. Then it was followed by three consecutive centuries of 4 games in ODIs, and now I'm expecting him to really get it done in his home ground. And let's hope he gets his
I mean,
75th and
we
28th
have a
Test century.
report which says, as Jen rightly mentioned, about Virat Kohli coming driving to the ground, which also meant that Virat Kohli came 1.5 hours earlier to the ground than the team, and he called up all the spinners to ball to him in the rough. And he also
Yeah.
stayed back after the team left. He batted for another 3 hours in the nets, just facing spinners, and he told them to ball in the rough, and that included Saurabh Kumar and all the net ballers who were there in the team India. So, which is good signs, to be honest. He's very, very, very adamant that he wants to succeed. And a player like Virat Kohli thrives under pressure, thrives these challenges where he's put under pressure, he's bogged down. He really wants to come out fighting out of this. And you expect a player like Virat Kohli, he's of that similar mentality of sports persons, right? Who really work their way out of whatever issues they are going to face. And you've seen that with Virat Kohli's career as well. He has really worked himself out of every issue he had to face in his life. Let it be when it has to be mentally, politically, anything. As I mentioned, politically is not a is not by mistake. They will definitely talk about it later on in our live as well. So well, that is about it. I really hope Virat Kohli scores to 75th in his home ground, because 75th in itself is a monumental feat. 75 hundreds in international cricket. I know it's far from Sachin Tendulkar, but 75 hundreds is a statement, man. I mean, that's going to give him a lot of confidence, and that's going to put him on that cruise control mode in Test cricket as well. Then you will see hundreds coming one after the other. They're going to be like,
And
it's normalcy back,
and
right?
right now Virat Kohli is very eager. He's desperate for that Test century, because Virat Kohli has been very vocal about the fact that Test cricket is his favorite format, more than ODIs, more than T20Is, and I think him not scoring runs in his favorite format
Yeah,
will have been playing at the back of his mind. And
yeah.
he had a home series, he went to Bangladesh, he could not score runs in the first test as well. He got out to, I think, the wicket, that was the
That was
luckiest
down the leg
wicket
side.
that was the luckiest wicket that Australia picked up in the last test, and you don't see Virat Kohli getting out that way.
And
So
even
I
that
guess,
wicket, Alex Carey almost dropped it. The ball juggled out of
yeah.
Alex Carey's gloves, and he had him on the second
Yeah,
try. So,
yeah.
yeah, when things don't go your way, it just happens in that way. But you never know. It's just one shot or one particular luck it all requires for Virat Kohli to get going. And if India gets to bat first, the best possible surface will be on day one, and for Virat Kohli to come out. And to add to that, let's talk about Cheteshwar Pujara, who's going to be making his 100th test tomorrow, his 100th test cap, which he'll be receiving tomorrow. What do you reckon about this guy? He's been a phenomenal player in Indian Test cricket over the last one decade. I remember he came into prominence during 2012, and since then he's never really looked back. But actually, 2010 in the Border Gavaskar Trophy, rather, where he played that 70 knock in Bangalore, the replacing VVS Lakshman, if I'm not wrong, coming at number 6, and he played a beautiful 70-run knock where he announced himself to international cricket. Now 2023, 13 years of long cricket, and he's seen it all. What do you reckon, Jaren, about Cheteshwar Pujara, and how do you see him go about it tomorrow?
Yeah, I mean, one thing I have to say about Chiteshwar Pujara is that he is trying to transition his game to score above 50 strike rate, at least in Test cricket. We saw him coming out attacking in the last match, but surprising to see him play get out the way he did. Right? It was just a terrible phase for India. Two of probably India's greatest ever modern Test batters getting out to Todd Murphy down the leg side. But I really feel India, we've always spoken about this, right? India does not like facing debutants, and some of the world's best players have debuted in India. Alistair Cook, Joe Root, Kane Williamson, and the list can go on and on and on. But I think India will play Todd Murphy better. But having said that, Cheshire Pujara has been a great servant for Indian Test cricket. For a player like him to come out in a generation where you expect the likes of Shreyas Iyer, kind of a Test cricketer who loves to take the game on its head. We've had someone like Cheshire Pujara who's played some great knocks, especially outside outside India, and some of the greatest wins that India's had, some of the greatest Indian performances outside have come on the back of Cheshire Pujara. And miles to see, really interested to see how he's able to play this brand of cricket that he's trying to transition into. Because it's going to be an exciting, I would say, exciting few months with Pujara, and I hope the Indian management gives him that long line, because he's trying to do something different. And if he does get through and starts playing at a strike of 50 at least, I think Indian team is going to look a lot more solid.
See,
Absolutely.
after
I think we're getting a
99
lot of
test matches,
questions on
after 99
Australian
test
team as
matches
well.
for Cheteshwar Pujara, I think he averages 44. He has a strike rate of 44. You mentioned that you would love to see him score at a strike rate of in excess of 50. I don't mind Cheteshwar Pujara batting at a strike rate of 15, 20, 25, but I want that average to go up to 50, because over the last 3 years, I think his average has dropped significantly. He got a century in Bangladesh in December last year, which was a huge relief for him as well, scoring a century after 2-3 long years. And I think right now he would act. He's trying to change his game according to the team's positions and situations, which is nice from one point. But I would still want Pujara to play his natural game, because we all know, I don't want Kohli to play like Pujara and Pujara to play like Kohli. I think that's what makes them different. I want Pujara to play like Pujara. If you want, you take 50 balls to get off the mark, but go on and score that century at the end of the day. And same with Kohli. I don't want Kohli to come in and just for the sake of defending be at 2 of 25 or 3 of 30. That is just
Yeah,
not his game. And we saw how David Warner struggled in the last game. So we would not
yeah.
want Kohli and Pujara to sort of exchange their roles.
Yeah, absolutely. There's a lot of comments coming on women's IPL and on the T20 World Cup. I think we will take that up right now. So we have planned a intensive, full-on live on Women's Premier League right before it starts. But this weekend we are going to be back with talking about the Women's World Cup, which is going to be in hand. We have our live and all the content bucket ready for the Women's Premier League, which we'll be doing right before the start of the Women's Premier League. But before that, we will be talking about the World Cup. So we'll be back this weekend to have a roundup, weekly roundup of the Women's World Cup. As you all know, India have got 2 on the bounce now, and India are well on course into looking at the knockout spot, of course. And on the other end, Australia also flying high. With the Australian team, you always know they always fly high in women's cricket. There is no two ways about it. They just keep flying high. I've
Yeah,
never seen them on the
I'll make an early prediction. I expect India versus New Zealand in one semis and Australia versus England in the other,
New
and I
Zealand.
expect India versus Australia in the finals.
Sandeep, New Zealand has struggled very badly. I think they are
But
almost on the
I
I
don't
verge of
think
it.
I
I think it's going to be South Africa who's going to make it to the
but I
semi-finals.
think
Yeah,
no,
I
South
really
Africa
feel the
lost.
same.
South Africa lost against Sri Lanka.
I know
They,
that's the only loss they've had, but they
But
didn't play
right
well.
after that, the next match they had against New Zealand, they steamrolled New Zealand.
Yeah,
It's a very good
yeah.
batting lineup.
but I still
New
expect
Zealand
New Zealand to
giving.
make it through.
No, I really don't think so. I mean, I know they have probably Bangladesh, Sri Lanka, and Australia. I think these are the 3 teams left for them to play. And I think they're not gonna win against Australia again. And rest is Sri Lanka and Bangladesh. Bangladesh might be an easier one, but Sri Lankan women,
But
you
you know,
have to
Bangladesh
say they
team is now
played.
under heavy scanner of the fixing allegations which
Yeah.
have come up into
Yeah.
the horizon. Now people are talking about how Bangladesh team have been involved under corruption and under fixing. So there's a lot of turmoil which is happening in Bangladesh dressing room as well. So I really don't see New Zealand going ahead. But if at all, if there has to be someone, let's give a chance to a team like South Africa. There, the home team. They will be slightly more on the driver's
Yeah.
seat. They will be slightly more confident going into the next round in comparison with New Zealand, who've been looking extremely jaded. I don't know what exactly it has been for the White Ferns. Let's hope they come back harder. But
I think they
what?
have tried a lot of youngsters. I think
Yeah,
and
they
it
have.
has
They
just
certainly have.
backfired.
And even for Sophie Devine, I was just listening to her interview of the press conference. She was extremely candid in there, saying that we were steamrolled and we just did not have any planning going into that match against South Africa. So it has been hard time for the women's team of New Zealand, but I'm certainly hoping things will change for them because they are a very good team. If you want to have some quality
Yeah.
cricket, you really want to see them in the knockouts as well. What about KL Rahul? As we already mentioned it at the start of the live, Vivek, KL Rahul will get another chance. Indian team have got their back of KL. They've got KL Rahul's back at this point of stage because KL Rahul looks to be that one player who they really want to invest on. He's still a youngster according to Indian management and according to media. But I really hope things change rather quickly, and I hope he does score runs in this test match so that
Yeah,
he
KL
comes
Rahul is
back to the
getting
form.
starts, but the thing is that he's getting out at the wrong moment. If KL
Yes.
Rahul
I,
can
I I
convert
really think
even
there's
one
a
of those
lot of
starts.
talent within him to be failing too cheaply. And as I mentioned, what is funny is average of the first 30 balls and balls after that. After the first 30 balls, his average drops down to 14. Whereas his first 30 balls, his average is 30. It's understandable if a batter gets out, under 30 balls where you can say the batter was not set. But if you're getting out after that, which means you certainly are facing issues in terms of getting off the block, or then you're having a mental block where you're trying to shut her down completely. And also we have a question from Ronnie Ratna. Ronnie Ratna says Gill must play in place of Rahul's place tomorrow. Yes, that's what a lot of people are saying, but I don't think that's going to happen. We also have questions on New Zealand versus England, which is happening. Yes, I personally think that's a very good test match, which is happening. Just to be talking
Yeah.
about it in brief, we are smoking New Zealand, of course. Yeah, outraged
No,
Vivek is
I mean,
definitely.
it's we have
I
come
think
to
it's
a
time,
point.
I really feel for me,
Yeah,
I mean, for me, I feel it's time to counter Basball. The only way to go ahead is to have a field set as you would set your field in the first 10 overs of a one day match. Because the way that England is trying to play, it's not the traditional test cricket. They're going after the bowling. They're going to try and score at least 7 runs, 4 to 7,
Yeah,
I mean, 5 to
that
7
that
runs
was
per
very
over.
funny the way how Joe Root got dismissed today in the first slip. The way he tried to play that reverse sweep, and he got 1 4. But of course, you're playing against Neil Wagner. He's not a mug in Test cricket. You can't keep doing that always. For someone like Joe Root to be doing that and getting out, I'm fine. I'm all fine with baseball as long as it's entertaining me. One team I'll play to watch. I'll pay to watch rather is of course the English team in Test cricket at this point, because they're definitely entertaining me and everybody else.
And
325 they
and just
declared.
just to talk about the stats, I think if on the first day, if you get out, like initially I thought, okay, they got out in the first day and New Zealand came into bat. So how much could they have managed? 170, 180, 200? That is what you expect if you hear that 13 wickets fell down on the first day. But to go on and get 325 runs on the board of 58 overs is a great achievement. And we have come to that point where you need to play in a certain way to sort of take the pressure on the opponent and get the runs on the board. And
I
we
think
saw New
I
Zealand
think
were
we are going
trying
to be
to.
talking about the template in Test cricket very soon. I think it's already it's already on the move. England are the trendsetters in the modern day. I think it's going to that extent where you have to play to get out of the jail in surfaces like that. It was a green top, it was ping ball. It's never going to be easy against Tim Southey and the other lads as well. But then the way in which they got out of it, Harry Brook once again showing why he's such a classy player. Ben Duckett has been the most impressive player for me
Yeah.
since the time
I
he
mean,
made
it's
his
very
Definitely.
impressive
comeback
to
from the
see
Pakistan
Ben
Test match.
Duckett go after the bowling, fresh pink ball, fresh new pink ball as an opener, going after some of the seasoned pros and against them in the home ground. Of course, you can argue that England and New Zealand not much difference in terms of conditions, but the way he went after the bowling, it was the confidence that he oozed, and the way he played, it was just counter-attacking cricket, and it's not easy. That's my point, right? That's the only way I see any team countering New Zealand, I mean, England, is to make sure you set fields according to 10 overs in one day cricket.
Yeah,
Probably a
But
third
but
I
fielder
think
out
that's
there,
but to be
because
that's
honest,
one
you
way
don't
to
expect
counter
it,
them.
right? But
because I
honestly, if
still
you
feel,
are
for me, yeah, for me,
go ahead.
Sadhivani, the way I see it is, if you make English team face 70, 80 overs, they won't survive. They won't score a lot of runs. So the only way they are able to play like this, the only reason why they play like this is because they aren't very trusting of their technique. Because before Baz McCullum took over, the reason why they were struggling is because they were playing a traditional Test cricket and they were getting out on ways which were questions on the technique. Someone like Zach Crawley again got out in a way that is very familiar to us. And a lot of these players are predominantly white ball players who have fashioned their technique to be in Test cricket. So the way I feel you have to go about them is, it might sound a little negative from my side, but put one day fields, make them score at the run at a rate of 5 to 4, put them under pressure, and then ask them to go after the bowling, and at least try and score singles instead of boundaries. Starve them, and then maybe there might be a chance that you get a few more wickets. Because the way they are going to play is they're going to try and score 300 plus every 50 overs. So you make it difficult for them to score runs, because I think aggression is only way you play those aggressive fields is when, for instance, how Australia is not trying to score runs but trying to survive. And that's how Test cricket was at a certain point in time. But with England trying to score runs, I think you have to be a little defensive, and it's something that is going to be very what do you say, revolutionary in Test cricket, because a lot of pros are not going to be happy about you keeping 3 to 4 fielders outside the circle, only having 2 slips or maybe even 1 slip. But I think that's the only way to go, because the way they play, they are short to play some balls, play some shots in the air and get some catches on the on deep mid wicket, or deep mid on, or places like that. I think that's the only way to go ahead with it.
I think
Absolutely, man.
not just the pundits. I think the bowlers will be pretty unhappy with what Jedin said right now. If you ask Tim
Yeah.
Saudi on a green top, you're coming into ball on day one, under overcast conditions. It's a day-night test. First over, Ben Duckett is taking the attack on you. You would love to keep 7 slips and probably 1 gully.
And
And if you ask Tim
that's what I
Saudi, he'll
felt.
probably say that.
Uh,
Yeah.
you know, that's what I felt. In conditions like Pakistan, for example, Pakistan really missed the trick in testing. I know they brought in a Turner for the third test match. By then, it was way too late. England were already on a front foot in terms of countering them. But to give them a flat surface on day one of a test series and to let them play that kind of cricket was just like saying "pair pe kulari marna." That
Suicidal.
was the definition of it. I've not seen any
Yeah.
team do that. It's like serving them on the platter to play that kind of cricket. I still think they might face struggle against quality spinners on good surfaces, where I don't really think they can play that manner of cricket. Where even against Abrar Ahmed, England did face a struggle when ball was turning. You saw them facing that struggle. So it is not going to be a sustainable model. Maybe at times you will see them fail a lot more. But at this point, it's working. It looks very good. That's what we spoke about them even
Yeah.
in the 50 overs and 2020. But now we all are shut. I hope it. I hope I am also proven wrong over here. So, but that's about it from the New Zealand versus England game. Are you going to be talking about the UEL clash? I think we'll be back in an hour, in 2 hours time to be talking about it. I think the
Yeah.
game starts in 30 minutes from now. But quickly before that, let's talk about the Australian team. What changes do you expect in that team? Because at this point, Mitchell Stark, he says he's fit, but he's still recovering from finger injury. I still don't get what exactly that means.
I think at this point in time, Australia is very desperate. They need someone to come in and do some sort of magic. I don't know if Mr. Stark is the man for the job, because I still feel I understand that probably you need someone to save face, because
Yeah.
Australian media, Australian pundits are not happy at all. I was reading some of the reports. They have been very heavy. I heard, I think Alan Gordon, what he said about Steve Smith showing thumbs
Yeah.
up to Ravindra Jadeja. They don't like what they're seeing. And to be fair, yeah, I think as someone who has loved the attitude that Australians carry on to every competition, it felt like there were a bunch of lads who were deflated, who were not competitive enough. But I think that will change come Delhi because of two reasons. One, Nagpur was a difficult test straight away, your first test playing in those conditions, and that's the reason why I still felt a practice match would have helped, because you need to at least put yourself into that competitive mode where you have to compete instead of just playing net sessions, because there's a whole different kettle of fish where you're playing a test match against, let's say, some of the players who have played in India. And also when you really see an India A team is full of players who want to prove themselves. So we've seen an India A team do really well against some of the visitors. So I think that would have been a very good way for Australia to go play a
Yeah.
practice match. But now that's out of the way. I think one test is at least done. I really think in terms of attitude, at least Australia will come out a lot better. I hope they do, because that's what I felt was lacking. It felt like a bunch of headless chickens, and not because they did not play Travis Head in the team, but it just felt like they were a bunch of headless chickens. And I really hope they come with better plans.
No, I
Yeah.
think
Suddenly,
the
yeah,
majority of the reason why Australia were deflated in the first test was because of how they went about it on day one. You can't expect a team to get out on 177, and the opposition was scoring freely. India was 77 for one at the end of day one, and the
Hmm.
game was almost over. I mean, India had a significant advantage after day one, and I think
yeah.
if Australia have any chance to come back mentally from the first game defeat, it is going to be very important. It is going to be of utmost importance for them to win day one. They will have to win at least two
It
sessions
also
from day
depends on
one.
whether you're going to win the toss or not. If India are going to win the toss and get that
See,
good conditions
even
to
if
bat, I
India,
don't think India will
if
miss it
even
out.
if India wins the toss and bats first, I think the attitude in Australia should be to get them all out in the first day itself. On the first day itself, to get them out cheaply, somewhere in between 200 to 250, and I think that is where the best chances that Australia will have lie on, because we had all the pundits go on about how toss was going to be a very important factor, and team batting last was going to face it. Yeah, it was going to be very difficult for team batting at number 4, but you have to have a team score as much runs in 2 innings as the opponent is scoring in 1 inning. Australia miserably failed to do that in the first innings, and I think that the entire thing is in the head. If tomorrow, if Australia gets to bat first, if you have a Marnus, a Lavish and a Smith partnership of somewhere in excess of 150, 160, and I think Australia will have to win day one. They'll have to win day one to keep their
Yeah.
chances alive. If they allow India to get a sniff on day one, India are just too good at this moment to lose any sort of opportunity. And I think that is where the openers come in. Usman Khawaja was in brilliant nick in 2022 with the bat. He was making a comeback 2022 had been the year of comebacks for players, and Usman Khawaja did it for Australia in test matches. He was written off for 2.5 years, came back strongly. But I think in India, his record hasn't been great.
I mean,
Same is the case
didn't
for
he
David
play his
Warner.
first ever Test match in India last match, or
Yeah,
had he
he
ever?
played. Sorry, he played. Yeah, I mean his record against India hasn't been really great.
Yeah.
He averages somewhere in between 20s, in
Well,
mid
not just
20s.
that, the biggest test for a player like Usman Khawaja is going to be Ravichandran Ashwin, because the test which Ravichandran Ashwin will possess against Usman Khawaja in this kind of surface is going to be enormous.
But I
It's
think
not
the
going to be easy
attitude
for
was
any
right. I think
left-handed
I was
opener.
I was happy with Usman Khawaja trying to drive the ball, because he
I
he
mean, that's
knew
what
that.
we did talk about it. We did
Yeah.
talk
Yeah,
about it,
but
but that
for
also gives
me, I
Ashwin
agree
the
with Sandipani
opportunity.
here, Abel, because if you really think about it, Usman Khawaja in those two deliveries, right, that he faced against Ashwin, showed more attitude than more positive attitude when Australia did again in the previous or in the two innings, all batters combined. Because in India, you cannot be sitting on your crease and hoping to not score. I'm not saying go overdrive like Alex carried it. I mean, he played 60% of sweeps. He played more sweeps than defensive shots. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm trying to say is try and look to score. And for me, Australia only tried were looking to score in that brief period. I think right before lunch, when Steve Smith and Manas Labuschagne got a little comfortable. Other than that period, and again, and Usman Khawaja's drive, I really did not see anything from Australia trying to score. They were just a bunch of lads looking to survive every 6 balls, and you cannot do that in Test cricket.
And I think
We're
Khawaja's
seeing what England
dismissal
is
was
doing.
more of Ashwin's brilliance rather than Khawaja's
Yeah,
poor
it was
batting.
because correct. I felt Ashwin kind of got more. He saw what Khawaja was trying to do, got a lot more dip and turn, and Khawaja couldn't reach the pitch at the surface. And that can happen. A good bowler will get your wicket once in a. I mean, at least one ball is there, and whenever Ashwin is bowling, the way he was bowling, one delivery had the name of every Australian batter at least. So that's where I felt
And
Australia
I
should
feel
like to look
even
score more.
tomorrow or even in the second test match, the opening spell from first fast bowlers is going to be even crucial for Australia to survive. We've been
Yeah.
talking about the
Yeah.
spinners. Even the first test match, what happened was Shami and Siraj really broke the back. 2 for 2 in
Hmm.
any test match to start off with is a bad score, which means the opposition is going to be on top of you. And that's where Shami and Siraj got that
Yeah.
brownie point and it helped India to be in the driver's seat from the very word go. And from there on, of course, Jadeja and Ashwin and Akshar Patel took the mantle of demolishing Australia completely. But you have to agree to the fact that fast bowlers were really good in terms of persisting with the pressure. I thought only there was only one occasion where the fast ball leaked a little bit of runs. That was when Alex Carey came to bat and Siraj balled a couple of overs where he went for close to 20 runs. But other than that, I really felt fast bowlers were top notch and I expect them to continue that even in Delhi. But finally, what do you reckon is going to be the outcome of this test match? Or is there going to be any one player who you reckon is going to take all the accolades from this game?
No, I feel it is going to be India's game. The next game is going to be India's game as well. Arun Jaitley, they love to play in Delhi. They have had a great record in Delhi. And home ground for Virat Kohli, it's going to be very interesting to see how he goes about it with the bat. And also from Australia's point of view, especially from David Warner's point of view, we have been very vocal about KL Rahul's mental block. I think David Warner in test matches outside Australia has a bigger mental block. You don't see a David Warner that comes out to bat with an intent of scoring 100 runs of 85, 90 balls, which he does in Australia. And I think that is going to be very
Mm.
tomorrow is going to be a very important test match for David Warner, and I think he has reached sort of the twilight of his career in Test cricket. He has been a
Yeah.
magnificent
But
player
there are
for
reports
Australia.
which suggest that David Warner is going to be dropped to more for Travis Head. So if that's the case, I think it's going to be very interesting to see how they go about it. Because
But
Travis Head coming
I
into the
wouldn't
team,
want
and
Matt Renshaw. I mean, I'm not a fan of Matt Renshaw playing as well.
yeah, so
So
the report suggests that Matt Renshaw might go on top of the order, and Travis Head will come in at number 6 because Cam Green is not yet completely fit to be playing in that complete order of Australian teams. So, which means Travis Head, who will come into the 11, might come in for David Warner. That's a very interesting call if Australia makes that call.
but I would rather place my bets on David Warner rather than Matt Renshaw, because once again, nothing against Matt Renshaw, but he's a player. With David Warner, you always have that X factor element. He has had a great record in India other than test matches. If you bar the international cricket, he has been a great player for whichever franchise that he plays for in the IPL. He has been one of the stars of the IPL. So I think I would rather place my bets on David Warner rather than place my bets on Matt Renshaw out of form. I don't care what he did in Sheffield Shield. He is not in the best of forms. Did not perform in BBL. Looked completely out of sorts in the first game. If he goes on to score some great runs, I think I'll be very happy for him. But I would still, if you ask me, I would bet all my chips on David Warner rather than bet my chips on Matt Renshaw.
Yeah, that's interesting.
And Renshaw
There's
is going
lot
to be a
of
very good pick.
that
Matt
particular
Renshaw
college
is going to, if he gets to play, Matt Renshaw is going to be is going to be a great pick for tomorrow for your fantasy teams. For all the off-field choices, I think he's going to be the biggest off-field choice if he goes on to score some runs.
Moonlighting. Not gonna take that up. So let's talk about this Australian team, Jen, especially when it comes to Matt Renshaw, because Sandeepan is very clear with his opinion that Matt Renshaw shouldn't be there in the 11. But Australia have no option at this point other than to bring in Travis Head. In order to fit Travis Head, they may have to drop. They're one of the all-time greats in David Warner in these conditions, at least.
I mean, I don't know if he's an all-time great in these conditions. That's the biggest issue, right? And for David Warner, he's had an issue against pacers coming around the wicket. Even in Australia, when the ball does a little bit off the pitch, and especially early on in his innings, I think he's struggling. He's had a few struggles, especially ever since the wobble ball has become, a sort of a trend now. David Warner's found it very difficult to counter it. Stuart Broad really started it with Otis Gibson, right, when he had played Ashes. Where Stuart Broad started coming down the wicket and David Warner had no answers. That's what has been a ploy against him for a long time. I think from what I saw against, there was a slight visual, when Ashwin had gotten a wicket of David Warner and they had taken it to the upstairs for the review, and the camera was panning on David Warner as he was given out, and you could see disappointment written on David Warner's face. He just seems like he's, really, exhausted. Playing in India, at least.
He was very clear before the test series that he's mentally very exhausted to play any sort of cricket. Which means he's not in the right space at all.
Exactly. And I think that also has got to do with the reason why, if he gets dropped, he will be. Because I think he himself might have asked the management to, give him that time or space so that he can take a little bit of space, because someone like David Warner has been to great scrutiny, not only in Test cricket, not only in Australian cricket, but throughout. For a long time, it has been this issue with David Warner that whatever he does on field, off field, it gets questioned a lot in different medias. Indian media has been very kind to him, you would have to say. But aside from that, Australian media has been very harsh.
I mean, whatever he's been doing, he's been only spending more time on TikTok reels than the time he spent on the cricketing crease at this point. So I think that's the difference.
Yeah, I mean, for me, I think his Test cricket really is hanging in a balance, and I won't be surprised if he comes up with a decision on it, because he has been struggling for quite some time. He's done really well in Australia, nothing taking away from him. But at this point in time, Australian cricket will want him to play well outside India as well. He can do it. I mean, Australia as well. If not India, at least places like England or New Zealand and such places, you want him to play well. So really interesting to see how it goes, because I still felt, I said it last time as well, I feel Matt Renshaw is much better used in the top of the order, because I feel against pacers he can still do a little better than against spinners, especially when he's facing his first few balls, because he is a youngster. He's playing in India. It's not easy to play in India at all, and he's trying to make a name for himself in an Australian squad. So having to play in India against an Ashwin who's already balled 6 to 7 overs, is settled in, playing your first ball against him is not easy. I think comparatively, he would be hoping that he plays against some of the Indian pacers. It's not easy to play them, but at least he'll be facing players who are balling against their conditions.
Yeah, makes sense. I think that's about it from the
And also, I think talking about
well.
David Warner's stats in Australia, I think he averages in excess of 58 in Australia in Test matches,
Right.
which significantly drops to 32, almost close to half of what he averages in Australia. So I think yeah,
And that's the
and
case with almost all the modern day batters, right? When it
but
comes to
I
everyone
would
having
hope, for a legend of Australia. Whatever David Warner has done off the pitch, that is his
I don't remember a
personal thing.
single they would want to knock where it really outclassed an opposition nation conditions. I really don't remember. I don't know what's his highest score in Asia as well. I really have to look into it and talk about what's his highest score in Asian conditions, because even in Sri Lanka he has struggled over the years. Even in UAE he has struggled over the years. So Bangladesh he's never been able to get going. So in India
I
of
think
course he has
his
struggled as
his highest score in Asia is in Bangladesh. In fact, oh no, it's in UAE. He has scored 133 against Pakistan back into 2014. David Warner
well.
averages well in UAE because obviously of the flat tracks, but also he has a century in Bangladesh as well. But that came way back in 2017 as well. He has struggled in Sri Lanka, struggled against India, in India especially.
I
So
mean,
I
Bangladesh,
think
that particular series I remember as well. Australia lost that series if I remember
yeah,
against Bangladesh. So it
2017. Yeah,
wasn't happy memories for Australia at all, even in that series. So yeah, to be honest, to be talking about Australia in conditions where the ball has turned over the last 10 years, Australia have always struggled. There is no two ways about it. If you have to bring from 2013 from the Border Gavaskar Trophy until now, Australia have always struggled in conditions where the ball has turned. And that's where you feel a team like Australia. I think that victory in Pakistan is slightly overplayed a lot by Australian media. I still think it's again Pakistan's mistake of providing them very good surfaces for Australia to really dominate them, and their fast ballers are the ones who dominated, not the spinners even there. And even there, you saw some of the batters failing. Usman Khawaja had a good series. But on the flip side, someone like Manas Labuschagne had a very average series to
mediocre.
his
Yeah.
standard. He just averaged 33 there. So that is where you feel like, there are issues in the Australian team against quality spinners. And I think Jadeja, Ashwin, and Akshar is going to be mighty chance for this Australian team to counter as we go along in the series as well. Having said that, we'll be joining you all tomorrow, and we'll be joining in a couple of hours rather for football. But for tomorrow for the
Yeah.
day one analysis, and in a couple of hours for the UEL analysis of the entire game, which will be played in Barcelona and Manchester United, which starts 5 minutes from now. Thank you all for joining. It was wonderful taking
And
all your
also, I just want
questions.
to say we haven't forgotten anything. We know Women's T20 World Cup. We are going to do it. We have the Women's Premier League in mind as well. We have something extensive planned for you. So we'll get those things coming in the coming days. So
Yes.
just be patient, and we'll have everything related to cricket and football in this channel.
Absolutely, absolutely. Thank you guys for joining in. If you guys remember, you can actually make teams now for Barcelona and Manchester, and it's open. The contest is open on Boom 11, and also make teams right now for tomorrow morning's clash. If at all you're late waking up, you don't want to miss out on that opportunity. So tomorrow, India vs Australia kick starts, and Boom 11 you can play for absolute free of cost these contests. And as you all know, we are in partnership with so many brands where you can join and win so many rewards as well. And there's something big coming your way in the coming days, or maybe something massive coming for all the Indian viewers as well. So just stay tuned before we announce it. Bye bye. Take care, all of you.
Yeah. Good night,
Bye
guys.
bye.